I hope you guys forgive me for this horrible title, but there are many points I want to personally address in this one. Many statements might look out of place, but they serve the purpose of building up an overarching structure. So let's assume my current MMR is 4k, like 3k, doesn't matter. But I get coached and played unranked a lot, like many years, and now I'm skilled enough to play at 5k level. It will take me quite some time before I eventually reach my actual real MMR. Dota is a 5 versus 5 game, and players are part of the machine. Though every part is technically 20%, the tools at your disposal are different from the other guy and thus cannot be equal in what they do. The map offers limited resources per time, which means there is not enough room for everybody to progress economically. As Dota was shaping itself up as a strategy game, clear farm priorities have been developed, and nowadays we have cores and supports. Core just implies it's meant to take up the farm because there is not enough farm for everybody to take. With more farm you can acquire more tools to do more things, and thus each part of the machine has a different impact on the game. So naturally, the potential impact of a hero that has a farm priority position is much higher, because he has access to things that other heroes on his team do not have. I think this doesn't need much explanation, and you can just take a look at the fact that every single booster there is plays a hero like Slark or Tinker, and not Crystal Maiden or Warlock as a position 5, which means as a support hero it'll take significantly much more time to climb because your impact potential is significantly more limited, as you have less ways and tools to outplay your opponents with. To be fair, here it goes both way, and also much harder to throw a game as a support, as there is a better chance that you'll get carried by a competent core. Boosted accounts is a plague that eats Dota right now, alive. Super inflated MMR, stomps in low brackets, low bracket players infiltrating higher brackets, ruined experiences all around, we've got it all. And this bothers me, man. This bothers me because I really want to play solo MMR games to climb the ladder, but I also don't want to play solo MMR games because I already know from my own personal experience, as well from the experience of other players, how many of these games will be completely ruined by people who bought their accounts to play the bracket they aren't capable of playing at. Well, eventually you'll climb, man. They have 5 potential retards and you only have 4. Assuming you aren't one. It's fair, just play more games. I mean, okay, the math checks out and this statement is technically correct. However, it's not fair to my time. I'm not playing an infinite amount of games per day, and a huge chunk of these games is merely damage control games. Winning a game feels like a chore you have to do at that point. Account buyers typically take up a core position, which they naturally suck at, because they suck at every position. However, because of how the game works, a core is naturally a more impactful part of the machine, so your chances to win drop by a more significant amount, which correlates with the impact potential being wasted away. And now let's say you play mainly a support, like you are a support player. Therefore, every single game that has a buyer on your team is going to be much harder because the buyer occupies a core position and a guaranteed decent player occupies a support position. People who buy accounts cannot accept their 2k MMR reality. No, that would crush their ego completely. But the dissonance of their delusions reaches the point where they feel like actually purchasing an account. And they do, because they can. And because they have fragile egos and most likely zero self-awareness on top of their shit ability to play the game, the very second something within a match derails from their understanding of the game, the moment something strays away from their perfect envision of a game plan they have had in their minds, they start to tilt, they start to feed, trash talk, flame, and just throw the game in general. And because this is a core role they're occupying, with all that farm and all that space devoted to them for the entirety of the match, what happened here is you essentially threw all these resources and space and your own time right out the window because the buyer ate all that space and now doesn't utilize it because he's AFKing at Fountain at best, and at worst he's just feeding couriers. To them, it's somebody else's fault that they didn't get to free farm. If you are truly a newcomer to strategy games, you might miss an extremely important fact that you aren't meant to farm uncontested. It's like the whole point of the game being multiplayer in the first place. If you are laning against a person who is 2, 10, 50 times above your skill level, you won't get any farm. And if you can only farm a completely free lane, you aren't much better than a medium bot. That's why your typical buyer gets completely crushed all the time. It's not hard to outplay a medium bot. Obviously, fuck these people and fuck the people who boost and sell accounts. However, I can't put 100% of the blame on them because they are operating within a system where this activity and behavior is not punished by the authority. Unless we get a monumental change to how ranked matchmaking works, unless you can't play ranked without logging in using your passport identification or something along these lines, the only way to prevent this kind of a plague completely overthrowing the matchmaking legitimacy is to actively ban these accounts. Right now people boost, sell and buy accounts on factory production scales because they inherently know, they understand there's literally zero risk of losing their money, they understand there's zero risk of wasting their time away, and they understand it doesn't affect fucking anything. Aside, of course, from ruining thousands and thousands of games per week to the point where people who are actually interested in improving at the game just quit Dota.